So I just read Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. The book, basically, at the very start of the book, Earth, the human population on Earth is wiped out by a virus that kills almost the entirety of the population on Earth. And it's clear, it's very clear, I think, that some of this was borrowed by Stephen King for The Stand. The start of the book reads really, really similarly to The Stand. It's like a sort of a more condensed version of the initial part of The Stand, but very, very similar. If you like The Stand, I think you will very easily see the parallels there. And I have really mixed views on this one. So the first 20% of the book is almost entirely world building, where you follow the main character who is seeing the impact of how the virus has hit Earth. So he kind of, at the start of the book, he's unwell due to a snake bite. So he kind of doesn't really get to see everything that develops and everything. So he doesn't get to see the virus as it develops. He doesn't really know that there's a virus plaguing the world until he leaves his sort of isolated cabin where he's recovering from this snake bite, and then goes and explores the world. And really, the first bit is setting the scene, and kind of showing you how the world is. And I thought that bit was really interesting, quite well laid out. It I was going to say it's derivative of a lot of other books, but this book was written in 49. So it may well be that a lot of other books are derivative of this. But it was interesting. It was it was worth reading. The issue is, after that, I really, really felt there was kind of a slog um, in my reading experience. So the next bit, and I kind of, to say exactly sort of what happens would be a spoiler. But then you have this with, essentially, I'd say, almost every science fiction book. Is there's the initial sort of setting the scene of what's different in the world, why it's a science fiction book, and then after you've done that initial bit, once you kind of get settled in to the story, after the initial outlay, so you're settled into the story now, and then you kind of figure out, right, this is what the book's about. These are the themes they're trying to explore. This is what they're trying to establish. This is the purpose of the book. And once you hit that point, I found it was it was pretty it was pretty dry. So a lot of the book is this kind of, it's difficult. I'm trying to talk around what it is, just because I'm sensitive to spoilers. But it's exploring themes of what it means to be a human, what civilization really means, what society means, what's important, how do you rebuild, or do you rebuild? Do you rebuild from what you previously had, or do you kind of start anew? And that's 20% to 90% of the book. I struggled with it. I wouldn't say it was bad, but I never really looked forward to reading it. So when I was reading it, I was quite happy reading it. I quite enjoyed my time reading it, but I never put it down and thought, oh, I can't wait until the next time I can pick this up. It was more, it was more just sort of pleasant while I was reading it. And I remember kind of looking forward to the end of the book and thinking, like, I'm quite looking forward to finishing this now and being able to access my TBR and read the next book. And then, about 90% of the way in, the plot, well, the structure of the story changes, I guess, is maybe the best way to describe it. And this thing I was reading, and just something like very powerful came over me. It was a real like had a really emotive response to something that happened in the book, and it's not like what I thought was brilliant was it's not like the book had, this sudden like massive conclusion that everything built up to, and then one kind of catastrophic event or one sort of massive decision had to be made. It wasn't like that at all. It was this really subtle thing in the storytelling that just had this massive impact on me emotionally, and I will not stop thinking about that bit of the book. I think probably for the rest of my life. The only way I can really sort of try and sell it to someone is because I don't want to. I don't want to spoil it, and it's not this like this huge plot device that everything's built up to or anything like that. But if I like knowing myself, if I could tell myself in the past, it's worth reading this entire book for this one 3 or 4 page section. And I should point out, I haven't looked at any reviews at all on this. I haven't checked Goodreads. I don't even know what it's rated. I haven't read any reviews. I will look at them after this, and I'd be really curious to see if other people found this bit so moving, because it may have just been me. It may have just been my experience, and for no one else, it was unimportant and didn't even register to them. But I'd be really interested. I'd be really interested to see that bit, to see if that bit had impacted anyone else. And like if anyone who's read this is watching this, um, send me a message or something and tell me if you know the bit I'm referring to, and if that had such a profound impact on you as it did me. Because yeah, like I said, I would say the whole book, which I found mostly a slog, was totally, totally worth reading just for this 3 or 4 page bit. And it sort of, it has these, it kind of explores these themes of what's important in humanity, what's important to pass on to generations, the cyclicality of life. And it's really expertly done and wonderful. Um, in terms of the prose, for those who are interested in that, it, so I struggled a bit with the prose, and it's a slightly niche reason, but I'm reading the Mr. Men books with my son at the moment, and it's almost written in that style. And I think that isn't any comment on the author or his talent or anything like that, but it's really similar in writing to the Mr. Men books. And what I mean by that is there will be sort of a paragraph describing something, and then there will be a very short sentence with an exclamation mark at the end of it summarizing that thing. So, and this isn't a direct example in the book, but it would say something like, it would describe a house and then say, "What a beautiful house!" Exclamation mark. And it's really, really similar to the Mr. Men books. But that may have just been, he's writing, 49, 70, 75 years ago. That may just be how writing was done at the time and just the literary style. And actually, the book sort of changes the narrative a lot. So it goes from I think it's, I'm not an English by any means, an expert on the English language, but it goes, I think, from third person limited to third person omniscient. So there'll be sort of the normal writing in a limited perspective, and then there'll be a section in italics that sort of zooms out and tells a lot more about what's going on in the rest of the world, or gives you a perspective that there's no way the characters would be able to know. And those bits are beautifully written. I've got so many of my highlights are just little paragraphs, little excerpts from those sections in italics. So it's clear. It's clear he's a very talented writer, and I think actually he was a English professor as well. So he obviously knows what he's doing with the English language and with writing. So it's clearly just a stylistic thing that I struggled with because he's obviously got the talent to do all these other lovely, beautiful bits of writing as well. So overall, I do think it's worth a read, and I really mean it is worth reading all 310 pages for this one section. And bearing in mind, I thought other than the first 20%, the most of the book is pretty dry and pretty slow to read. It's not bad. It's not bad. Even the worst bits aren't bad, but there's just nuggets of absolute gold dust in this, and I would say it's worth